Hi guys, what up, Viper here, and today I'm going to give you a very in-depth, very detailed tutorial on how to get started in the Illuvium Overworld part of the game. Once you get to mainnet, pretty much just going to look into the current testnet version, which we are pretty close to testnet going down and mainnet being launched, so maybe some small things are going to be changed, but I'm going to give you a good overview on how to get started when you get playing. So once you're done with the tutorial, you're not gonna have all this stuff that I have right here, but you're gonna have a Earth Doka, a Earth Groko, and you're gonna have a single sword weapon, right? So what can you do with those things? You can press this E button on this, I don't know, obelisk, right? This big thing here, you get ported here after the tutorial. You can interact with this and you can click on a region. I think these two are gonna be locked and it's gonna be onto the players to progress in the game and unlock them as some lore thing. We don't really know anything about lore yet. So there's that, but assumingly, because this is how the last testnet phase was, we can start in Brightland Steps. You can choose a stage 0 travel that costs you nothing. That's the free-to-play thing to do. And because it's a free-to-play thing to do, you don't really have to optimize for anything in these runs, but just trying to be time efficient, meaning just get as much stuff, as much loot as possible as you want. So you're gonna teleport in here, you can press the M key, zoom out, press the H key, right? You see these red areas, that means this is where you wanna go. In this region, you have these cool bubbles that is essentially make all the high things like the mountains and this, I don't know, bridge kind of thing here really accessible because they just allow you to go up, right? You can also look on the map and with your, what is this, my right click, I can put these markers and you can see them at the top of your screen, right? This will be 500 meters away. I think that was a pretty bad marker, but really relevant. So now here, like after the tutorial, if you remember, you can hit 1 for this burst rifle, 2 for the charged one. So pretty much just check all of these things. Now you see, I don't really see anything on the map. You can press Q, you have your infrared vision kind of thing, and everything that is highlighted, you can pretty much just go and shoot. The plans are consumables. Consumables make fights a lot easier, and yeah, you get them for free here because it's the free region. So that's always gonna be useful to have. It's always gonna be just the most efficient way in the game, essentially not the most time efficient, but the most like money efficient way if you just go and use a bunch of these consumables instead of farming a lot of the more powerful ones in the higher stage regions, which maybe you're gonna need more powerful consumables or you're gonna want more powerful consumables to make the game easier at the beginning, but once you have further progress in the game, I'm pretty sure that you can beat almost every single encounter just farming a couple of the cheap, like the 3 tier 0 ones. That is essentially the two main things that you probably want to go after at the beginning, just the plants, because eventually the consumables are going to be useful, they're going to make your fights really easy, and the ores. At the beginning of the game, you just have weak teams and everything, you have to start grinding. You should capture a bunch of these tier 0 Illuvials that are running around here. One really cool trick that the tutorial also showed you, right? You have F key and G key. The drone abilities is going to slow down the guy, so it's easier to shoot. And once you can craft a second weapon, you can also use a G, and you have these super powerful gunshots that make it really easy to get these guys. These things here, I don't know if the tutorial will cover that, probably will. Once your energy reaches 100 or less, they activate, you can go through and they give you some energy back, but there's going to be a big red circle that is going to be closing, like in a Battle Royale game. Here, this, like eventually you're going to be behind that barrier and you're going to die. Now, what do you do with the extra materials that you find, right? I told you shoot a bunch of the ore, farm a bunch of the ore that you get by shooting the rocks. And you're not only going to get ore, you're also going to get gems and you're going to get shards. Now, when you fight, like I said, you want to fight them, right? You have to capture the guys. Using shards is essentially how you capture them. And you see here, I, for example, got some essence. Essence is also relevant for crafting. This is the lore kind of feature, the analyzing substance that unlocks more regions. For a cool tip, next to the obelisk, you have this teleporter thing here. You can go in here and you teleporter to this main base. Currently, I don't know what this thing is or what could happen here. I don't know if that's just in the beta. Maybe there's going to be more stuff once the game is live. But yeah, currently you have the forge here. You have a lot of stuff. The first thing, this filter here. You start out with tier 0 materials, right? So you can just filter for tier 0 things. You can craft suits and you can craft weapons with ingots, and you need gems. infused gems, in fact. Now, ingots are essentially the items that you make of osmium and rhodium in tier 0. Those are the 2 ores that you will get. And if we look at higher tiers, there's a bunch more of them with different ores that you can farm in the paid regions where you have to spend Krypton to get to them. Then shards, you have these at the beginning, right? Shard fragments, you have to cure them. Doesn't cost you anything, right? It's a free-to-play thing. I can just like click this, make 99. I've farmed a bunch, as you guys can see. So yeah, once the loading thing is gone, right, you have your shards and you can use those and throw them at the Illuvials to capture them. Now, the gemstone infusion thing also needs essence. This is also why, just especially at the beginning, if you're in the tier 0 zone, just shoot at a bunch of plants. You're going to need the consumables and you're going to need the essence to infuse these gemstones to make further weapons, and yeah, you need the essence also to make suits and everything, right? Like, it's going to be very, very helpful to just have that item, and at the beginning you can just shoot at everything, and it's the best time efficient way to just spend all your energy, because you have to check the least amount of the map to spend all your energy. Then you have these things that are drone ships. This is, depending on how much you plan to play, maybe you want to look into getting these drone ships as the first thing after, I don't know, doing the tier 0 things. I wonder if they're going to be more for mainnet, because currently we have a chance to duplicate all one. You can filter these, for example, easier by going for only looking at stage 1. Then you see only the stage 1 for the various different ships that there are. You have increased the capture power. This means you have a higher chance of capturing Illuvials with the shards that you throw at them, chance to duplicate ore, chance to duplicate essence, reduce the mining cost, reduce the encounter enter cost. I think this is like a testnet beta thing, because entering encounters doesn't cost anything anymore, so this is going to be purged from the game, and reduce harvesting energy cost by a percentage number. So if you want to just really optimize your economy and you're gonna go and spend a bunch of money in the game, making these things as the first thing is just the most efficient thing, because they allow you to get more stuff in the future for cheaper. Now, again, making the lower versions, well, you need like not crazy rare materials for them, and you don't need a lot of Solon cost for them. For these, you need 2000 Solon, and if you want to look at the stage 3 versions, you need pretty high amounts of Solon for the tier 5, the capture power one especially, and these materials, these ingots, are not super easy to farm. So if you want to go for this, I suggest you first get the mining cost reduction one. I think that one got nerfed a lot, but I believe it is still a bit more efficient than the chance to duplicate all one, because with more mining cost, you just have a better chance of getting more shards in the late game, which after you have done all your drone components, well, eventually you're just gonna get all the ore to make all the weapons and things that you want to make anyways, but you're always gonna need more shards. And yeah, so there's also a marketplace, so everything I say here, maybe just like selling something in the marketplace and buying something else is going to be a good strategy. Maybe not, I don't know, I'm just seeing this more from a single player perspective, and everything that you have extra that you don't need, might as well put on the marketplace. I'm not really approaching this from an idea of I'm going to go and buy these things off the marketplace specifically. Obviously, if you guys want to go and speed up your gameplay, if you guys think that that is I don't know, better worth your time, more fun for you, whatever, go ahead and do that. Now, the equipment. I think this is the super relevant stuff to make at the beginning of the game as well, is the movement speed items. Time is always relevant, and also really big quality of life to just jump higher and fly faster. And the visor is quality of life because, well, you just see things more clear, but the upgraded visor also shows you things that are further away, and that makes sure that you don't miss anything on the map that you have paid to go into. So I think these are super good items to make, fully free to play, right? You just need some essence and a tier 0 ore. You essentially also make them by, you have to make the stage 1 version first, and you can make the stage 2 version by using the stage 1 version as a part of the recipe. If you have these items equipped, like here, then you have to unequip them, like drag them into your inventory and let go, so that you can make the next version, so that you don't get confused for that. If you have items equipped, you cannot use them and destroy them, at least currently in the last testnet patch. These drone ships, you have just 3 slots for them, so preferably they also have these substats, as you can see. Now in the testnet, I have perfect drone ships. On mainnet, it's probably going to be really rare that you get the perfect substats. There's also a mechanic that is, I think it's going to be a very, very whale mechanic in the game, but this is going to depend on the numbers in the game. I think potentially just making more drone ships is better, but you can here hover over these things. You see, if you press X, you can re-roll, and that re-rolls this secondary stat. Essentially, I don't know, let's say you have 20% mining cost reduction. You pay 80 per ore, then you get another 10% chip. You go from 80 to 70. The jump from 100, jump from like, I don't know, 100 to 90 is 10%, right? From 90 to 80 is more than 10%, even though it's 10% on a chip. And then the further down you go, right? For example, if you, I don't know, need to spend 50 and you have 4,000 energy, that means you can get 80 ores. If you jump from 50 to 40, that would mean you can get 100. If your goal is to get like the first Illuvial with like a low mint number and stuff like that, then yeah, just screw the drone chips and go for the Illuvials for like a few days maybe, and then do the drone chips afterwards and then continue playing from there. Let's talk a little bit about the Illuvia teams and what to prioritize capturing at the beginning of the game and also when progressing throughout the game. Essentially, you start in the stage 0 region. Unless something in the game changes, you're gonna have 8 slots for Illuvials in your team, a couple slots for 3 slots for weapons and 3 slots for suits. I think weapons and suits is like, I don't know, if you can just make some extras at the beginning of the game, sure, why not, especially with stage 0 materials, but it's not like crazy relevant stuff. Now for the Illuvials. So at the beginning of the game, you have a Brightland steps. In stage 1, 2, and 3, you're gonna face mainly air and nature Illuvials in this region. Now, I have a lot of like videos on how to fight, how to position, how to like what is relevant in Illuvial combat. Essentially, I suggest to look up those videos. Okay, so basically this image, very, very important to remember, because every Illuvium has one of these 5 affinities, and if that affinity is essentially countering what the enemy team currently has, more or less what of the enemy team is currently in range of your Illuvial, it's a pretty big range. It's like half of the map kind of thing, but yeah, if one thing is in the far away enemy corner and one thing is on your far side corner, well, they don't impact each other. If something is like, I don't know, on the front line, on the enemy side, and it's on your back line, it will be impacted by this. What does this mean? Essentially, Earth has a +2, this big arrow versus fire, +1 versus nature. This means that when you're fighting, you see your Illuvials have this yellow bar around their health bars, and it goes up, 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 up until it's fully developed. This means that they get a gradually increasing bonus depending on the class that they have. Fighters, for example, get attack speed, Balvoks get damage reduction, Empaths heal themselves and allies around them during this progression, and if it hits the max, the effect is essentially doubled, and there's like a bonus thing next to it as well. Like the Empaths give more healing efficiency on top of already healing everything. Fighters get resistance penetration on top of immense attack speed bonus. Now, you might be familiar with the auto battler concept and the traits and these things from TFT or similar games. In Illuvium, this hyper thing gives you way more stats than any of the traits in the game. So you can play a team and you can have, I don't know, only 2 out of 3 fire, 2 out of 3 earth, 2 out of 3 air, everything 2 out of 3. Totally fine. If your hyper is beating the enemy team, is way stronger than having those traits active, basically. Now, we talked about that the first region is going to be Brightland Steppes, and Brightland Steppes is mainly nature and mainly air. That means especially fire is really, really good if you go for a bunch of fire Illuvials in the stage 0 region, like a fire Doka, fire Grocko, in my opinion, the best, and then the Tipo is the next best. Basically, Balvok is scaling damage reduction with hyper. Damage reduction, insanely strong stat. And then you have an empath that has healing just by being an empath that gets hyper behind that guy that stacks damage reduction. Eventually your tank becomes literally immortal because damage reduction plus healing, really strong combo. And then fighter is the best damage dealing thing that you can have with hyper assault because crazy attack speed buff. So that's like my go-to idea on a team. You just have Balvok, Empath, and Fighter, combinations of them, they get hyper and you win. Now, in Brightland Steppes, mainly in nature and air. So you can, for example, go for fire, then you're weak to earth, so you can combo like fire and a little bit of water. Now with water you're weak to air, and fire is only slightly good versus air, so you can maybe do something like 3 fire, 3 water and 2 nature, and then you're like pretty much set to go. And this kind of concept works for other setups as well, right? Now, the second most important thing for the combat in especially the overworld in this game is to be aware that your Illuvials have these random stats. I think they matter, but they don't matter like insanely much. Obviously, if you have multiple Illuvials, you want to have you don't want them to have like really bad stats. Like you don't want to have a tank that has like no defense rolls here, for example. But this is like a bit secondary. The main thing is the level. Illuvials get a tremendous boost in stats from levels, and you get levels by just fighting, you get experience points, you level up. The earlier levels, like until level 20, 30, is very, very quick. Until 40, it's a bit of a grind, and after 40, it starts to be more and more and more difficult. For example, level 20 is about 4,000 experience. My Phosphorus right now is level 57 and has gained 600,000 experience throughout me playing the game, right? So level 20, really, really easy. You also need to have level 20 if you want to fuse Illuvials. So if I would want to, I don't know, fuse my 3 Ados here, level 3, level 1 and level 5, they wouldn't work. Now, if your Illuvials are fused, then they become composite affinities and composite classes. They keep the main thing that they started on stage 1 as the dominant one, and that matters for hyper and everything, but they essentially get a second bonus. Now here my guy, for example, Bloom Arcanite, starts out as nature, then it gets earth added, and it starts out as a fighter, and then it gets Psion added on top. Now let's come back to levels. Levels on Illuvials, essentially really, really major stat bonuses, and the Illuvials that you face in the different stages, they also have levels. Essentially, if you fight a level, if you fight a stage 2 Illuvial, you go into these regions, you fight stage 2s, they're always going to be level 20 plus, and you fight stage 3s, they're always going to be level 40 plus. So you don't have to grind a lot, they're always really strong once you capture them, but it's going to be harder to beat them in the fights. Stage 3 fights, really difficult. You probably want to play the game like a little more and get a kind of strong team, kind of leveled up team before you dive into stage 3 fights, because a lot of the enemies are gonna be level 20, level 40, and you're gonna fight like sometimes 10 Illuvials. So you want to start in stage 1, and you want to start making a better team and leveling up your Illuvials in stage 1 if you didn't already have some higher level ones from playing stage 0. It depends a bit on how much you want to prepare, but when you try to capture something, you only have to pay this energy that you have if you go into a run for the capture attempt. So you have to win the fight first to be able to capture. Now you cannot fight an infinite amount of times, because if you fight and you lose your Illuvials, this is this blue bar here. Especially if you fight, it goes down, and if you lose, it goes down quicker. And if it goes down very, very low, they get like a stat debuff, and if it goes to nothing, then you cannot fight with them anymore. You can counter that by looking at the consumables here and the ring nuts. So you can farm those in stage 0. So you can farm, not the random ring nuts, but you can farm the normal ring nut in stage 0 for free, right? You can just farm a bunch of them, and then you could fight infinitely often. So you could go to one stage 3 run and just after your team is like a bit strong, or maybe you go into a stage 1 run and you fight every single encounter on the map. You probably need to farm a lot of ring nuts before you can do that. You can repeat the same in stage 2 and stage 3 to just really turbo farm a lot of experience points for your team, but you need to have these ring nuts. You can use them outside of combat, just hold them, drag them onto the Illuvium. You can use it like you saw here. I just like used one, but it doesn't have an effect because it's already at the maxed out thing here, right? So that's like a really Krypton, really money efficient thing to do if you want to level up Illuvials and you want to fuse them and you want to get these higher class, higher stage Illuvials, that you farm a bunch of these ring nuts in the free region, and yeah, then you just jump into one high travel, right? You pay 1 times the Krypton, you fight all the 30 encounters in there. I think currently a stage 3 encounter gives you more than 1,000 XP on average per Illuvial if I go in there with 8 Illuvials. So you could literally drag one Illuvial to almost stage 3. if you play 2 copies of it in your team, let's say you have like 6 units that make a good team and 2 units that you want to level up so you can, I don't know, maybe just level them up so they are strong fighters by themselves, or level them up so you can fuse 2 stage 3 versions of them. You can put 2 of them in your team, and 1 stage 3 travel, if you have enough ring nuts, can be enough experience so that they can become the stage 3 Illuvial afterwards at this fusion terminal thing. Now, maybe the numbers are going to change, right? I'm speaking from the last testnet patch perspective here. I don't think it's going to be crazy different, though. I don't really see why. This should always be a good strategy. Maybe you're going to get slightly less, maybe slightly more experience of this. I guess one last interesting thing that got added in the recent patch is talking a little bit about the auto-scan region thing. This reveals Illuvials mega deposits and the Ergon rifts on the map if you pay a Solon fee on top of the Krypton fee. So let's load into a encounter without using this. And let's talk a little how I would go about this and then with using it. And then I can essentially showcase the difference very, very good, I believe. So you load in, you press M, you press H. Okay, I'm very knowledgeable about this map. I've farmed this map like hundreds of times. There's a little cave that always has one single Illuvial. So I know, okay, this is one single Illuvial that is here. I also know there's one single Illuvial spawn point over here. There can be an ore or an Illuvial, but it's slightly bigger than these. It's probably still only one, right? So I can check these spots single. There is an Illuvial spawn point, I think, here and here. So, like, I don't know, if you play the map a lot and you know what's going on, then you can really, really know from the heat maps where everything has spawned. If you played the testnet and the testnets before, obviously helps a whole lot. If not, then yeah, just like have to check out the entire map, right? Or you just press your Q key and this gives you like 200, I think it's like considered 200 meters or something range, and you can find everything anyways. Okay, so we've determined you can realistically find everything on the map if you are a little bit experienced or you just invest a lot of time with the scan option, right? Now, what does auto-scan do for you here? So currently, the Illuvials that you would be running around and trying to find, you would see them on the map and you see the most rare Illuvial on the map. And that's the one that's running around. So you can determine, is that worth to go and fight or is it not worth to go and fight? Now, if you have the auto scan, instead of having these red areas, you're just gonna see just the symbols and you can quickly go through and be like, okay, which one do I wanna go and fight? Here, for example, this is a tier 5. I probably want to fight that. You can right-click that and mark it. And then it's just like tier 4s. Tier 4s are okay, but they're not super rare. And this is stage 2. Maybe stage 2 is worth it for you to fight. It's only a tier 1 Illuvial though, so it's not really that rare or special or anything to get. Here's a hollow Illuvial. Probably want to go and grab the hollow Illuvial. Tier 3 stage 2. Probably want to go and grab that. Or the stage 2 links. I don't know if I want to grab that. There's an A door here. There's another hollow here. So I've marked 3. I've marked 6 things. So now I can go and just run around the map. I can fight those 6 things. After that, I know where these rifts are. I can gather the rifts. Maybe I can fight another time. Maybe I can just go and farm the Helio Agate. Now, how much time does this save you? Because it just saves you time. It doesn't make more loot spawn. It doesn't, like some people will argue, yeah, but you would just miss something. I don't know if you miss something with the heat map because it shows you everything on the entire map. So you can like fly by, press Q and you scan and you see stuff. So it's just like a time thing. How much time does this save me? Okay, I don't have to check this area essentially. I don't have to check this area at all. I don't have to check this area at all. And pretty much the rest of the map I do have to travel through, right? There's no Ergon Rifts here. There's no Ergon Rifts here. Here I have to get the Ergon Rifts. I would find this stone anyways if I check this area. And I pretty much have to check almost the entire map anyways. So you save, I don't know, maybe like 25% of the flying around part with doing this. And like that's like about it. You save like 25% of the time flying around, maybe like 50% in some other spawn points and so on. but you still have to do all the loading screens, you still have to do all the hunting, you still have to do all the fighting, all the capturing, and the animations and everything connected with that. So this is certainly going to speed things up a little bit for you, but I don't think it speeds things up to crazy amounts. And yeah, you gotta, again, decide for yourself. Do you want to pay a lot extra to use this feature? Is this like how you want to play the game? You just see everything and you can have like a good conscience. You didn't miss anything really rare. You didn't miss out on whatever. You can maybe also just use this a few times on the tier 1 travels, because then it's like a lot cheaper and you can help and learn the spawn points due to this. I think that is probably the biggest thing to do if you didn't play the previous ones. If you feel uncomfortable with the spawn points and such, maybe just do it in tier 1, or maybe do it on your first tier 1 travels a few times to just speed up those, because that is not too expensive, right? You don't pay a lot extra on the tier 1 travels for it, because it scales with the cost of the travel. But I think for the stage 3 ones, especially, I don't know, I personally currently would not be using it. I would just, like, again, play the game myself and just optimize for efficiency and not optimize for time a whole lot. That's also why I personally, like I explained earlier, will most likely just go for drone upgrades earlier and just max out my efficiency in terms of how much fuel do I spend for how much loot that I can get. A little bit on the loot on the regions. For ore and essence, I think that the tier 4 and 5 materials are pretty hard to get, maybe even impossible to get in stage 1 and 2. I think a lot of the tier 4 and 5 ore and essence things you want to go to stage 3 for. Same for shards. And yeah, if you want to have like tier 1 items essentially, so you want to go stage 1, right? I don't really know stage 2. Stage 2 feels like this in-between thing. I feel like I would either go... Yeah, I don't know. It's really hard to tell. We're not going to know the exact drop rates, and drop rates might be changed from the game at the moment. And it's always been a bit weird in the game at the moment because the bonding curve, it's been hypercharged. What does bonding curve mean? Essentially, when people like go and capture a bunch of stuff, the next time it is slightly harder to go and capture something and so on. So this is hard to predict. It doesn't really impact your gameplay. One last thing that might impact your gameplay is the existence of master shards, I guess. So if you try to capture an Illuvial and it fails, your shard is going to disappear, but you're going to get some shard dust. And you can get shard dust as well by just, I don't know, using shards as material to get them. Master shards are 100% capture rate all the time. I'd probably personally want to carry around like 1 or 2 of these at all times. If I find some like jackpot, like really rare Illuvial, dark hollow Illuvial, something like that. With that, we are through a really, really long and in-depth tutorial, but that is what people asked me to do on this. And I hope this really, really helps everybody that wants to get started in Illuvium Overworld, especially if you didn't play the testnet versions from before. I've made a couple of previous tutorial videos and a bunch of guides on especially the combat side of things, the item side of things, the forge, the drone upgrades, all of those stuff. If you feel like this video wasn't in-depth enough and didn't cover everything you wanted to know, there's way more videos to go and check out. Further, I probably should have mentioned this throughout the video, but there's a creator link essentially, and there's a Illuvium Alliance program, it's called. TLDR, please use my creator link if you buy stuff in the game. It greatly helps me and greatly helps to keep up all the content that I can do and that I really want to do. I love this game, I love this community, and I wanted to, I don't know, do well, and I want to help everybody new to get into this game. So appreciate you guys hanging around for the long video. I hope it really helped you, and see you in the next one.